What's up everyone, Zibai is out and I'm gonna break down how to master her. From her best builds, artifacts, and her core mechanics, we'll cover everything. So sit back, relax, hit the like button, and let's max out your Zibai. First with her mechanics, casting her elemental skill throws her into the Lunar phase shift mode. In it, her normal attacks gain Geo Infusion, and it's key you constantly utilize them. As put simply, her normal attacks are the gateway to all of her major mechanics and highly impressive damage. On one front, her normal attacks are vital for Lunar Crystallize, which very quickly, Lunar Crystallize occurs with the interaction of Geo and Hydro, forming a construct that periodically attacks enemies, very similar to Zhongli's Pillar or Miko's turrets. With further application of the two elements, a max of 3 constructs can form. When Lunar Crystallize is triggered 3 times, the turrets fire to directly deal Lunar Crystallize damage. But beyond actually triggering the reaction, Zibai's normals take the reaction and push it to the next level. When attacking, always complete her normal attack string, as at the very end of it, Zibai is able to directly inflict Lunar Crystallize on her own. As you normal attack, you'll notice Zibai continuously accrues these points, and these points are called phase shift radiants. They're very important. With enough of them, once you reach enough to where the moon lights up, activating your skill once more has Zibai consume the points to perform her massively powerful Spirit Steed Stride. Say that 3 times. Another deadly attack that deals high crystallized damage. It's arguably Zibai's strongest ability, enjoying a massive damage boost whenever the moon drifts of Lunar Crystallize attack or when Zibai uses her skill. Therefore, based on her sheer power, outputting the highest damage possible requires you deal Spirit Steed Stride as much as possible, certainly at its max of 4 uses per skill. Generating high enough points for the skill becomes a main focus. She inherently gains 10 for every second she's in her skills mode. When she basic attacks, another 5 points are generated. However, she gains a crazy boost in points thanks to her Ascendant Gleam passive. Whenever Lunar Crystallize is triggered by a teammate, she gets 35 points. Thus, Lunar Crystallize becomes a focal point in this regard, but thankfully she has so many ways to trigger the reaction, so getting her skill will not at all be a problem. As you can see, Zibai's kit is pretty simple, but profoundly, just in her skill alone, she has so many ways to output Lunar Crystallize damage. This same philosophy extends to her Elemental Burst, being another beautiful ultimate. Enemies are hit with Geo and Lunar Crystallize damage. There's no special mechanics nor any points to build up behind the burst. It's a nice and simple move for high damage. When you begin to level her talents, highly prioritize her elemental skill. As we went over, this is where much of her kit revolves around and is where most of her damage comes from. Though less important, her burst is still notable thanks to its quick but powerful hits, so prioritize that after. Finally, you should ignore her normal attacks. With her mechanics covered, let's delve into the best weapons to support her kit. After testing each sword's DPS, I must say Zibai's weapon situation is really interesting in the best possible way. At the very top is Zibai's signature, Light Bearing Moonshard. It does not hold an insane lead among other 5 stars like certain other signatures do, but without a doubt it is very strong. From its high crit damage, nice defense, to even its ridiculous 64% enhancement to Lunar Crystallize damage, Zibai will be hitting nukes with her signature. In second place came Chiori's Misogiri. While visually different, stat-wise, this sword is almost the exact same as Zibai's signature. It has crit damage, other various buffs, but likewise, the defense buffs her sword has. Because of this sword fits on Zibai like a glove and performed extremely well. But behind it, as a very competitive third, was Al-Haytham's weapon. You're probably seeing a trend by now, all of these swords have huge crit damage. The notable part about this sword is the latter half of its passive. It plays into Zibai's stat of Elemental Mastery, of which she will have loads of, as you'll soon see with her artifacts. Now, we move away from 5 stars and move into a category I did not expect but should make everyone happy. The 3-star Harbinger of Dawn. Normally, I leave 3 stars for the end of the ranking, but the Harbinger is so broken, it reaches a 5-star level of performance, so it deserves this spot. It wields a crazy passive, essentially 2 perfectly rolled artifacts. With so much crit being free no less, Zibai hits like a beast, but this is only so as long as you maintain the passive. If you don't, it tanks extremely hard, just as hard as my love for the game with the recent Varka news. Anyways, to ensure this at all times, playing Zhongli becomes a requirement across all her teams. Broken Hearts for Varka aside, we come to the Peak Patrol. It doesn't have any crazy damage rating stats, but what carries the sword is the mountains of defense it has. Farina's sword is additionally viable as a mere stat stick for crit damage, and the Natlan craftable sword for a defense stat stick. At last, he who has been winning a ton lately, Albedo, and his Cinnabar Spindle. Let me know in the comments what sword you'll be using. Not gonna lie, the Harbinger being free and so strong, I just can't skip over it. That's what I'm gonna be using, and I'm gonna be saving up my primos. Moving on, let's cover Zibai's artifacts, but before that, I just ask that you take a quick second to like the video and possibly subscribe. This helps me out a great deal, benefits the channel immensely, and would mean a lot. Back to the video, Zibai's artifacts are very important, but not in the way you're probably thinking. As with any Lunar DPS, Zibai desperately wants the Night of the Skies unveiling. It is the perfect combo of crit, EM, and Lunar damage. Hands down, it is her highest damaging set. Now, either because of how broken Sky's unveiling is, or the uniqueness of Zibai being a crystallized DPS, no set comes close to Sky's unveiling. Technically, Husk of Opulent Dreams is kinda considerable, however it ranked as a very weak second in terms of performance. Overall, you should just forget any other set exists and focus completely on Sky's unveiling. You should instead direct your attention to the artifacts of Zibai's teammates. Oddly enough, they're far more important than Zibai's own, in the sense that they're a major source of damage and can be easily messed up, thus you need to get them right. But not to worry, I'll break them all down in a simple manner. First up, Silken Moon Serenade. You probably get just how broken this set is by now, but all the same, it is a mandatory set. It should always be equipped in her teams and given to the lowest damaging support. This is always Ino, but Itloa can use it too. If you have Columbina, she can also use it, but only if there is no other Nodcry support to run the set. Next, Abeid of Morningstar and Moon. Morningstar and Moon is meant to enhance the damage of a Nodcry sub DPS. It is therefore best used on the unit that deals the highest passive damage. In Zibai's team, this will pretty much always go to Columbina, say if Bina is with Itloa or with Ino. Finally, for Instructor. You may have forgotten about this set, but it is actually amazing. And finally, after all these years, it is farmable in the new artifact domain. It gives a very nice EM bonus to everyone with no annoying requirements to satisfy. It's a great generalist set, so any support can use it, be it Itloa or even Goro. With that out of the way, if you've just started the game, you should mix and match the likes of Berserker for greater crit rate, Defender's Will for loads of extra defense, in addition to 2 Gambler. Within these sets, aim for the main stats of double defense and crit. This combo will net you the highest possible damage and cater towards all of her talents and abilities. EM kinda does the same, thus it is technically usable, but I don't recommend it at all as it is a DPS loss. Alongside these stats, aim for the substats of both crits, defense, EM, and finally, energy recharge. Next up, let's cover Zibai's Constellations and just how impactful they are. C1 starts us off with a pretty big boost in damage, quite a bit higher than most C1s if I'm not mistaken. This takes shape through the addition of 100 points of Lunar Phase whenever Zibai uses her normal skill to enter into her Geo Infusion mode, enabling you to immediately get off 1 Spirit Steed stride, coinciding with the other half of her passive, allowing you to deal 5 strides instead of normally 4. But better yet, the first stride you perform has its Lunar damage increased by 220%. Considering her extremely high DPS output, I'd say stopping at C1 is a good point, be it you're lucky or you actively hunt for her C1, but of course, Hoyoverse baits us with the next broken constellation, C2. C2 is huge, granting a universal 30% damage boost to all Lunar Crystallizes when Zibai is in the Lunar Phase shift mode. This does wonders for her entire team, but the latter half caters to herself alone. Her Ascending mechanic is reworked, really put on steroids. On top of its inherent buff to Spirit Stride second hit, the hit deals an additional damage that is worth 550% of Zibai's defense. C4 calms things down, but interestingly in a unique manner. Now her basic attack sequence will not reset, so you're not forced on dealing her final attack when you use her normals. You can dodge or move around, yet when you do eventually get to the 4th attack, it is enhanced by 250% of its original damage. Finally, her C6, and you don't need me to tell you that this con is completely broken. C6 has a rate of special points increased by 50%. When she consumes these points for her Spirit Steed stride, it will now consume all your points, with the trade-off of dealing significantly higher damage for every point consumed above 70. Given the higher rate of points plus you being able to deal 5 strides, you'll perform multiple strides, but now there'll be even bigger nukes than before. Last but not least, let's go over some amazing Zibai teams. When building her teams, you should always keep in mind a crucial passive that affects all of her possible comps. For every teammate she has that is Geo, she gains 15% extra defense. For every Hydra unit, her EM is elevated by 80. This passive is amazing. Zibai gets all of her most valuable stats just by playing the teams she's meant to be played in, all the while making her teams very simple, far simpler than Columbina's, whose freedom made her best teams a nightmare given the sheer volume of setups she buffs. But back to Zibai, the passive does, however, soft lock her to solely having Geo and Hydra companions. Yes, she's not locked to these teams as previous characters are, but you lose out on notable damage by venturing out outside of these teams. Bearing this in mind, Zibai's first team is her best free-to-play setup team, which is none other than her character banner team. Oftentimes on banners, the 4-stars are either useless with the 5-star, or just like 1 or 2 of them are decent enough. Yet here, each and every 4-star is amazing for her. You've got Aino, who's the best fallback option if your Columbina is too busy, and Nefer or Flynn's teams. There's Goro, the best defense support in the game. He'll be amazing for both Zibai's personal damage and Lunar damage. And of course, the second Geo support, Itlua. Think of him as the Goro of Lunar Crystallize. This man is incredible in Crystallize. I know the rates of sniping a 4-star is diabolical, but if you're going to get any 4-star on the banner, you need to get him. He does it all, from raising the entire party's Geo and Lunar Crystallize damage through his burst, to at the same time enhancing every Geo's crit rate and crit damage. This alone makes him powerful, but he also boosts everyone EM with Ascendant Gleam. Slotting him in with Zibai will be a massive gain in damage. He is Zibai's best support and is someone you need to play with her all the time. Just like to all the other Lunar reactions everyone is playing, forgetting about the prehistoric days in which we would hit 5k tasers, Columbina is broken in Lunar Crystallize, from generating a plethora of extra hits of Lunar Crystallize to bestowing a huge buff to the reaction itself. Columbina gives way for Zibai to achieve her max DPS potential. She is eons better than Aino, thus if you haven't skipped out on Bina for Zibai, absolutely play them together. You'll be taken back just how powerful they are with Itlua. These three combine to create Zibai's best team. Many characters emerge as great picks for the final spot. If damage is all you seek, Chiori is the one for you. Similarly, behind her is Albedo. Still, I'm no fan of doing reruns. If you prefer survivability, the old but reliable Zhongli is a must play. He's needed an upgrade for a while, and it seems like Lunar Crystallize is just that, and a big one. He's incredibly valuable. He will never let you die, he aids in the reaction, and nets you passive damage in the background with Dispel Resonance and its interaction in Crystallize. For the third team, we're gonna switch things up. We went over Zibai's team restrictions on how you're incentivized to follow them, but we're gonna pull a Miles Morales and do our own thing. We're still gonna abide by the rule, but the difference in damage from a team fully composed of Geos and Hydros to a team with one non-Geo and Hydro is not that big. In fact, you may not even notice it. Regardless, to justify the DPS loss, we need to use a unit that will not only make up for the loss, but perform better than a Geo and Hydra would. The best one for this is Anefa. You know how broken Anefa is. She's easily the best sub DPS in the game right now. Playing her is like winning the lottery when it comes to damage. Therefore, she is among the best sub DPSs to play anywhere, even in Lunar Crystallized teams. I discovered this when I was testing practically every possible team Columbina could fit in. I found a number of buff teams that no one talks about, but Lunar Charge and Crystallize can coincide, and when built right, as long as both reactions are benefited, the results are amazing. Yet as great as those teams were, with the strengths of Zibai and Anefa, this comp will easily push past the DPS of those teams. Well everyone, this is the guide. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and be sure to ask me any questions you have on Zibai.